Driving me crazy. Okay, so this is part 4 of the greatest raid of all time. They have successfully, I don't know if the boat bomb has went off, but they got the pumps, and then all their ships to save them, well, they all got blowed up. So they've decided they're going to fight their way home, get across the Spanish border. We'll see how it goes.
Of a tall order.
Spain was a daunting 350 miles away. But even before they could set off, they'd have to fight their way out of Saint-Nazaire itself. So that's 5,000 Germans who by this stage were awake, alert and organised, against fewer than 120 Brits, half of whom were wounded.
If you're a street fighter, you must secure any crossing.
Tiger Watson came round this corner, found himself face to face with a German sniper.
Ran forward, saw him lean forward, pressed the trigger of my Thompson submachine gun, and typically Watson, the magazine was empty. Click, click. Unfortunately, his magazine wasn't empty, and his shot broke my arm and bowled me over.
A party of Germans ran up to him, and one of them actually used the cliched expression, "For you, the war is over."
And I thought, well, it'll have to, escape eventually, but don't feel quite up to it at the moment.
I was almost certain I'd be killed because there was a watch point, a tower, and I had to go past it. The Germans must have seen me, and I knew they'd fire, and they did, but they hit me in the back and the arm and the leg.
Chant, the stockbroker who'd blown up the pumping house, made it to this point when a machine gun bullet fired from the top of the U-boat pens over there took his knee joint out. He was no longer able to walk, so he was captured as well. The commandos realised that they were trapped on an island and that the only way off it and into the town was across this bridge, which was guarded by what must have seemed like half the German army. By the time they got here, there were only 80 of them left, but plainly, they still had some fighting spirit left because they just formed themselves into a sort of great big mass and charged.
Captain Roy had now led the
What else are you gonna do in that moment?
assault across the bridge. Streams of bullets hitting those girders, ricocheting off the roadway. Machine guns, pom-poms, rifles. It was like a damn good November the 5th, only more so.
Bit by bit, the commando numbers were whittled down until the remaining men, low on ammo, went to ground in the town. Corin Purdon ended up in a cellar.
We suddenly heard all this shouting outside, and then the door burst open, and there were Germans standing there with their coal scuttle helmets and their weapons, looking terribly tense. Frankly, if I'd been there, I'd have chucked a couple of hand grenades down and finished us off, but they didn't. And the colonel, who had his pipe in his mouth, just sort of walked up the steps and said, well, we've done what we came to do, that's that.
It's impressive that the Germans didn't kill him. Yeah. Did the Germans do that though in war? Were they? I mean, did they when they captured you? Did they? Because I'm not done with it. But the Pacific War, that series, the Japanese, not fans of captured prisoners. They just executed them and went about their day.
As dawn broke, the battle was pretty much over. Just 5 of the landing party would eventually make it to Spain and freedom, and 222 would escape the horror on the few remaining wooden boats. Of the 600 or so men who'd come to France the previous evening, 214 had been taken prisoner, and 168 were dead. And worse still, it was now 7 a.m., 3 hours after the bomb in Campbelltown's nose was supposed to have gone off.
After we were washed ashore, we were put in the back of the lorry, driven into the town, and we were in this big room. And the Germans brought in a sailor. They fished out of the river and put him on the table and said, you know, you try and revive him. And we tried to get the water out of his lungs. And by this time, we were saying to one another, you know, the Campbelltown hasn't gone up.
The British could only console themselves that despite the failure, they had at least fought like lions.
They were patting us on the back now, the Germans were amazing. Yeah, so I mean, they probably couldn't believe it, that anybody would venture up into a submarine base heavily defended.
Yeah, you're probably looking at them like, I got nothing but respect for you. That's probably why they didn't kill him. It's the craziness behind what they're trying to do, and they're probably looking at it like, well, we don't really know what they were trying to do, but they did succeed in some stuff. We don't know what the ship hitting that was. Maybe that, you know, because they don't know the plan yet, but maybe they were getting there. But they probably looked at it like, I got nothing but respect for him. Because in war, you know, look, you can look over across the battle lines and see somebody doing something that you're just like, oh, look at that guy. You know, you want to kill him, but...
Some of the stories of bravery were incredible. Out in the estuary, one of the surviving MLs had gone head-to-head with a much more powerful German destroyer. The British gunner, a commando called Sergeant Tom Durran, was asked to surrender on a number of occasions, but even though he'd been shot 16 times, he kept on firing, until he was overcome by the loss of blood and passed out. But the story doesn't end there, because the captain of the German destroyer was so impressed by Durrant's bravery that when he landed, he took the trouble to find the most senior British officer and said, look, I don't know who was on that gun on that little ship, but whoever it was should get your Victoria Cross. And he got it. One of 5 awarded as a result of the action that night.
Wow.
So the commandos had fought well, but all they had to show for it was a destroyed pumping house and 2 damaged winding stations. Even at 10 a.m, the Campbelltown still hadn't exploded. And by this stage, the ship was crawling with German souvenir hunters. There was a real possibility the bomb might be discovered and defused. At one point in the morning, Mickey Byrne was marched along here, right past where the Campbelltown was embedded in the gates, and that called for a remarkable piece of acting. He couldn't look pleased that it was crawling with Germans, he couldn't look quizzical, wondering why the bomb hadn't gone off, and nor could he look afraid that it might go off at that precise moment, blowing him to pieces.
Yeah.
Among the prisoners was the Campbelltown's captain, Sam Beattie, who was being held in a nearby hut.
I was interrogated by a German who spoke very good English. He discovered that I'd been in Campbelltown, and he was remarking that it was no good ramming a stout cassoon like that with a flimsy ship. At that moment, there was a bang.
Wow. What timing? There was no good to ram it. Kablooey. Oh, I bet that German felt like a real asshole after that. Oh, wow.
The blast wrecked the gate. Thousands of gallons of water roared in, taking what remained of the British ship with it. And the German souvenir hunters? They found bits of them on the roof of the U-boat pens 400 yards away.
Oh my gosh.
A German petty officer rushed into the room where we were lying, saying, "We're going to shoot you all, we're going to kill you all." We just were so sort of exhausted and everything else that we were delighted that the explosion had occurred and just said, "Please don't shout, just get on with it."
Hitler was so incensed that he later issued his infamous order that in future all captured commandos would be executed as spies. Small wonder. Damage to the Normandy dock was so comprehensive that it was not repaired until 1947, 2 years after the war was over. As a result, Tirpitz was denied a home base in the Atlantic, and as a result of that, she was forced to spend most of the war in a fjord in Norway. She was finally destroyed by RAF bombers in 1944, and incredibly, this mighty battleship, the pride of the German Navy, went to the bottom, having never sunk so much as a fishing boat.
In the smoke of giant explosions, the Tirpitz capsizes and sinks.
The price for rendering this great ship impotent had been high. 168 British dead, around 400 Germans and 16 French, shot by mistake by SS troops. Still, the attack did mean that Churchill could say to the British and the world, "We're not done yet." And it helped in France as well.
One very important thing is what the French Prime Minister said to us on our first return to Saint-Nazaire. He said, "You were the first who gave us hope."
First to give us hope. Wow.
And what of the men, the commandos and the sailors who brought them on this, the greatest raid of all? Well, Tommy Durrant, the sergeant who took on a German destroyer, was captured and died of his wounds shortly afterwards. The bomb designer, Nigel Tibbets, after he'd steered the Campbelltown into the dock gate, helped wounded men onto a nearby ML and headed for home. But his little boat was hit by machine gun fire and, as his wife had predicted, he was killed. After being captured, Mickey Byrne was sent to Colditz. After the war, he became a journalist, and today he lives in Wales, where his hobby is reading poetry.
What a world we might have made.
Tiger Watson was sent to the Spangenberg camp. After coming home, he qualified as a doctor and ended up in Africa, helping victims of leprosy.
Wow.
I can't imagine all my senses being so alert. You know, every sense of hearing and looking and your heart pumping. Well, certainly will be the most exciting thing of my life.
It made you feel that you could stand up to the test. I think that was a relief to know that one didn't fall apart.
I'm sure the youth of today would do the same as we did. I'm sure they would.
I think that somehow or other it's such a strange thing that phlegmatic British do this sort of thing, and I could see us doing it again.
But I'm always reminded when I think about this, and it was after the war, I came across a quotation by Mark Twain, who said that courage is recognising fear, courage is conquering fear, and that's absolutely true, couldn't be truer. Yes, you were afraid, but you couldn't afford to be a coward.
Today, the great moments of military history are marked with imposing monuments, and their anniversary is honoured with much pomp and ceremony. But to find a memorial to the greatest raid of all, you have to go to a car park in Falmouth, in Cornwall. It's just a rock propped up against some railings, and it seems rather small.
Always had the feeling that anything that really offers some hope, whether it's international or national or even individual, some idea of your own, and it's impossible, never think so. Try it.
Good night.
Wow, if it's impossible, you don't think so. Try it. Wow. What a great one. I'd never heard anything about it. But man, that one guy fighting off those destroyers and that German having that much respect for him. I saw that they said that guy died, and I saw that he was 23 when he died. Man. Just young. Nothing but young people dying in that war. Nothing but young people dying in most wars. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. This was a good video. This is a really good video. So, thanks for watching. If you have more of this type of stuff, please request it. But until next time, like and subscribe, and have a good day, have a good night.